When a nominal range of 145 kilometers of air-to-air missiles and 181 kilometers away from the Indian Rafale warplanes accurately chopped down, the whole world held its breath. China's military industry and the fraud world are redefined the rules of modern air warfare. The world, or is it redefining the rules of modern air warfare? Japan's self-defense force officer Ichiro Yamamoto, that 21st century's largest military fraud diatribe, the spearhead of the PL15E missile, reverse false labeling. However, when the PAF J-10CE under the guidance of early warning aircraft to exceed the nominal range of nearly 40% of the actual performance of the Indian warplanes, the so-called fraud behind the revelation of the wisdom of the Chinese military industry knows the logic of the battle. In the weapons performance labeling, to leave enough room for error is the iron law of battlefield survival, but also a clear understanding of the complex air combat environment. The actual flight trajectory of the missile is never the ideal straight line of the laboratory. The enemy fighter's high G avoidance, complex electromagnetic interference, changes in the atmospheric environment are constantly devouring the missile's energy reserves. In actual combat, if the missile range labeling is too full, the pilot will be forced to risk entering the enemy fire circle in order to launch. The survival rate is bound to plummet. The Chinese military industry's insistence on conservative labeling is in fact a critical window of safe launch for the warplane, retaining energy redundancy for the missile to cope with unexpected maneuvers. The PL-15E's outstanding performance is no accident, and its technical core is a result of 2 decades of lonesome efforts by China's military industry. As the core breakthrough, the double-pulse solid rocket motor adopts nano-ceramic composite material as the flexible fire barrier between the two fuel segments, realizing precise control of the combustion interval from 10 seconds to 300 seconds. After the first pulse accelerates the missile to Mach 4, the projectile turns into a high-throw trajectory and glides, which greatly reduces drag in the thin air of high altitude. When the speed decays to Mach 1.5, the second pulse ignites the second acceleration, so that the missile still maintains supersonic breakout capability before hitting the target. This accelerate-glide ray acceleration intelligent power management, compared with the traditional single-pulse engine. Energy utilization nearly doubled, range naturally far beyond the paper data. More chilling to the opponent is the deep integration of the missile and the combat system. PL-15E through the two-way data chain with the AWACS constitute a silent hunting network. The carrier radar is turned off throughout the entire process by the AWACS remote transmission of the target coordinates. The missile in the middle of the flight only by the inertial guidance silently approaching until the end of the 25 kilometers before the start of the gallium nitride active phased array radar guide. At this time, the warning time left for the enemy aircraft is less than 10 seconds. The Indian pilots do not even have time to throw the jamming bomb has been destroyed. This systematic killing mode, the physical range of the PL-15E, will be expanded to the entire combat network perception radius. The traditional electronic countermeasures in front of it is virtually null and void. Japan's fierce reaction to the reverse false labeling reflects the depth of its anxiety about the reversal of the military power ratio in East Asia. When Yamamoto Ichiro claimed that China's own version of the PL-15 range of up to 300 kilometers, enough to the US forces stationed in Japan F-35, destroyed in the airport runway. The subtext is the US and Japan's military alliance of technological superiority of the collective panic. Japan's air self-defense force so far does not have self-developed over-the-horizon air-to-air missiles. The main OAM-4B performance is only equivalent to China's previous generation of products. Its high hopes of the F-35 fleet has not yet experienced the battle test and rely heavily on the US to provide weapons systems. PL-15E in the India-Pakistan battlefield stunning performance is tantamount to announcing that Japan's painstakingly operated, US-made shield cracks appear. What makes Japan even more uncomfortable is that the missile wreckage handed over by India is of extremely limited research value. The foreign trade version of the PL-15E has been technologically neutered in terms of radar band, anti-jamming algorithms, data chain encryption and other key modules, and its Ku-band guides are more than 2 generations behind the PLA's own models. Even if Japanese experts succeeded in analyzing the wreckage, the result is only China's technical outline of 10 years ago, and at the moment China's own models have been iterated to the stage of folded wings, PL-17 and PL-21 even more accelerated in the installation. This kind of, you tear down my old models, I have been on the new goods, rhythm of research and development, so that reverse engineering completely lost strategic significance. History always amazingly mirrors reality. During World War II, the Japanese, Zero, fighter aircraft to pervert the maneuverability of the Pacific Ocean, never questioned the legitimacy of their own advantages, and today China's economic accumulation and technological breakthroughs to obtain military progress, but was accused of fraud. The essence of this mentality is that some countries are difficult to accept a century of change, under the transfer of power, and even more unable to face up to the right of a nation that had been invaded to achieve modernization of national defense, through the peaceful rise of the people. When India will be the missile wreckage as technical chips, to invite Japan to co-development, this farce has become a footnote to the confidence of China's military industry. The real leader is never afraid of being imitated. China's reverse research and development of US-made rattlesnake missiles. The US has been iterated AIM-9C. When Russia sold the Su-27 production line to China, China derived from the J-11B, J-15T and other improvements in the model, while Russia is still eating the old Su-35. The response to technology leaks has never been a blockade, but a faster rate of innovation. Now the PL15E is open for export, which means that the more advanced PL-17 21sts will soon form the combat force, and this strategic strength of generation-level crushing is the most powerful rebuff to the fear of copying. China's military industry, conservative labeling, philosophy, is essentially a modern interpretation of Sun Tzu's art of war, can and can't show. From the 0.55 million tons of large drive, the number of vertical hair unit to the J-20 real stealth coefficient, China's weapons parameters have always been covered with a layer of strategic ambiguity, veil. This kind of hide the blade in the sheath wisdom, not only to avoid stimulating the arms race, but also in the critical moment to the opponent fatal surprise. When the PL-15E to $1.2 million US dollars per unit price swept the international market, forcing the United States to hastily promote the problematic AIM-260 project price butcher, and performance subversive, dual role, has quietly rewritten the rules of global military trade. Smoke cleared the Indian and Pakistani battlefield, eventually became the PL-15E global debutee stage. Saudi Arabia, Egypt and other countries' orders soared 300%. The Pentagon urgently revised the air war order. All this confirms the underlying logic of China's military industry. Combat is the only standard for testing weapons, and victory is the best advertisement. When some countries are still obsessed with the PPT parameter competition, China chose to use 181 kilometers away from the Rafale Wreckage to speak. That engraved with Taobao the same 6.8 yuan free shipping, egg missile parts, both the engineers of cold humor, but also a gentle reminder of the arrogant. To determine the future of air warfare is not marked in the manual of the numbers, but silent fly over the dome of hard power.